So, as a comic book creator, what should you be doing about the diamond situation? Hi, my name is Gamal Hennessy. I am an attorney, author, and business consultant who specializes in the comic book industry. And if you are in the industry and you've been paying attention over the past couple of weeks, you know that the situation with Diamond comic distribution is in flux, let's say. At the beginning of the year, they declared bankruptcy. And then they found a buyer. And then that buyer decided to sue them. And then the buyer decided not to sue them. And then they found another buyer. And then the first buyer decided to sue them again. And now there's another lawsuit happening, but there's also a push to move the bankruptcy proceeding from something that could keep Diamond going as an ongoing business to something that would simply dissolve Diamond altogether. So at this point, it is very unclear as to what's going to happen with Diamond. So if you're in comics and you'd like to get your comics into comic book shops, and Diamond, in theory, is a way to get your comic into comic book shops, what should you be doing while Diamond is doing whatever it is that they're doing? The answer to that question depends a lot on where you are in the comic book ecosystem, specifically for the book that you are working on right now. Now, when I say what position you're in, there are really only three. Each position is in relation to your ownership or control over the intellectual property. So there's freelance, creator owned, and independent comic book publishers. If you're a freelance comic book creator, you're an artist or a writer or an inker or letterer, congratulations. You don't have to do anything because it's not your circus, it's not your monkeys. If you get a gig and you deliver your final pages on time in a professional manner, it is not your job to determine when, how, or if that book ever gets to market. So while there's a lot of talk and a lot of consternation in the creative community about work for hire deals and creator owned deals, and are these deals actually useful? In this one case, you have one less headache to worry about because it's not your job to make sure the book actually gets distributed, unless your job is freelance distribution manager, in which case you should listen to the rest of the video. If you are trying to get a creator owned book into the world, which means you're looking for a publisher to work with, then the key here is to determine what your potential publisher has planned in terms of distribution relative to Diamond. So if and when you're shopping your deals, you're pitching your deals, and you get someone interested, your first question to them, or one of your first questions to them, because there's a lot of questions that you should have in that situation, your question should be, how are you getting your books out into the world? What is your distribution plan? Do you have distribution in the direct market through Lunar or PRH or Simon and Schuster or some other method? Or are you waiting to figure out what's going on with Diamond 2? If they have a reasonable answer to this question that you can verify independently, obviously, then you could proceed with the negotiation knowing that that piece of the puzzle is taken care of. If they don't have a very good answer, or you can't verify their answer, the question then becomes, what exactly is that publisher going to be able to do for you that you cannot do for yourself? Because if they don't have distribution and you don't have distribution and you would have to figure it out anyway, why give them, whoever they are in terms of the publisher, why give them rights and revenue related to your book that you don't have to give them because they're not actually giving you anything? If they do have a publishing plan, a distribution plan, and they can get the books to where they need to be, fine. If they don't, then you might want to go back and consider the independent route. If you're an independent publisher, which means your job is to make sure the book gets from your computer to the hands of your readers, that it's your job to figure out the distribution. In that case, there's several things that you need to consider. First, you need to consider whether or not your book belongs in the direct market in the first place. I did a video a couple weeks ago about how you go about analyzing whether or not your book should be in the direct market, and that video link to that video will be in the comments. We also, Comics Experience, just did a very in-depth panel where we brought in experts from the direct market, crowdfunding, libraries, digital, so that we could understand all the different types of distribution models that are available for comics. And that link will also be in the comments. So once you determine whether or not your book belongs in the direct market, and let's say you do, your readers go to comic book shops, so your book needs to be in comic book shops, that's great. You need to decide if and when you're going to actually try to make that happen. Are you going to wait for the dust to settle and not release your books in the market right now? Are you going to try to go from store to store on a consignment type situation? Are you going to try to get into Lunar or PRH? Or are you going to work with another publisher who already has distribution through an established channel like a Lunar and have your books folded into their catalog? So their distribution deal basically becomes your distribution deal in exchange for a cut of your revenue. That is a viable option, but if you choose that option, make sure that you understand exactly what it is you are and are not giving up in the contract. Yes, there needs to be a contract so that you understand that what it is that you're giving and what it is that you're getting, and you're not losing rights, revenue, responsibility, or the ability to recover your book, all in an attempt to get a distribution deal. So, to recap, if you are a comic creator who is trying to figure out what to do in relation to Diamond, you need to look at where you are in relation to your comic, freelance, creator owned, independent. Once you figure that out, you can take steps to make sure that the book that you've been working so hard on actually gets to where it needs to be. So, if you'd like links to some of the distribution related videos that I referred to before, please look in the comments. If you'd like to join Comics Experience and get access to dozens of videos and lessons about every aspect of having a comic book career, the link to Comics Experience will also be in the comments where you can go and get your first month free. If you have a legal issue or you're building up your comic book publishing company and you'd like to get some legal advice, contact me for a free consultation. That link will also be in the comments. So until next time, get off the internet and go make some comics.